Okay, hello everybody. Long time no see, right? And a very good New Year. I think we are meeting after New Year also, and we are meeting after our board exams also. Right? So how was the exams, people? Was it good? Chemistry or all the subjects? How did it go?
Chemistry was easy, sir.
Yeah,
Sir.
I heard,
Chemistry
I
was
heard that.
okay.
Yes, I heard. I mean, compared to math and physics, chemistry was relatively easy. That's what even I heard. Right? That's good. That's good. Right. Okay, so we have good strength. I thought initially we were only 4 5 people. Now we have good strength, right? So guys, how are you doing? Like first of all, that should be the thing, right? New Year went good. Everything is okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, even I had a good New Year. I went for a short trip and I came back, right? Anyways, now the lockdown is approaching. We can feel that. So before that, wherever you want to go and come back. Right? That's the thing. Anyways, so which I heard, I hope that most of you are from the same school. I don't know. I think DAV and the surrounding schools only. Can I know which chapter is going on in your schools right now for second term?
So in our school, currently they finished alcohol, not alcohol, I mean the acid chapter in
That
term
is
one. Sir.
aldehyde, ketones, and carboxylic acids.
Yes, sir. That
Still
they finished
carboxylic
before
acid, ma'am
term
finished,
one
sir.
exams.
So for me,
Yes,
they've
sir.
completed.
Okay.
In the second term, they've completed electrochemistry, chemical kinetics, and surface chemistry, and they've started.
Three chapters. Like
and-
for how long the class is
No,
going?
they actually started second term portion before the boats. So
Oh, okay. That
So
is
they've
Currently,
started
Hmm.
aldehydes ketones.
okay. Yes, Ron. Currently,
currently we are doing amines in school.
amines. Okay. Amine. Okay. So
Ma-
others.
Sir, ma'am said she'll finish amines in like 1 week and continue from carboxylic acids. Actually, Karthik sir taught till preparation of aldehydes, sir. Here epsilon.
Preparation of aldehydes. No, that is
After
not
portions
much.
are
Anyways.
declared.
Yeah, understood. If you start the chapter, we'll start it afresh. I don't know how much you remember from whatever he taught, right? And as you guys know, now for this term, there's no two faculties for you. Only I'll be handling the chemistry part, right, for your entire term. Okay. So I see that for most of you, aldehydes, ketones, carboxylic acids, and someone said electrochemistry and some other chapters. Any other things that are going on for any other schools?
School amines they are teaching, sir.
Schools are means they're teaching. Okay. Any other schools? What chapter is going on?
Aldehydes ketones.
Aldehydes, ketones only. Okay. That's it. Right. So mostly only organic is going on. So we can start with the organic itself, right? That's fine, I guess. Right.
Yes, sir.
So first two chapters of organic are okay. For me, they started with coordination compounds. Okay. Satya Priya says coordination compounds. Any other school has coordination compounds? Like any other guy or girl in the same school as Satya Priya? Okay, fine. So I think maybe we'll start with one organic chapter, aldehydes, ketones, carboxylic acids, and that's the biggest organic chapter. Okay, so out of all the chapters in organic, that is going to be the biggest chapter in the second part of the textbook, right? And maybe after we complete that, we'll go to coordination compounds, because that is again going to be very, very important in organic chapter, right? A lot of questions will come, right? Okay, so with that being said, I think I'll share my screen. We'll start right away. Okay. Right. Okay. So you have already done two organic chapters, right? So you would have done alkynes and haloarenes. You would have done alcohol, ethers, and phenols, right? So I don't know what was the methodology used by other faculty or in your schools, what kind of methodology they are using for teaching these kind of chapters. But my way of teaching would include a lot of mechanisms. even though those mechanisms are there for you in your syllabus or not there for you, organic should be studied in certain way, right? And that way only I will teach, and then only you'll be able to appreciate. Just for the sake of marks, we are not here only for that, isn't it? I hope at least you shouldn't be here only for marks, right? Fine. So with that being said, right, so first we'll start with aldehydes and ketones, and then we'll move on to acids and acid derivatives also you have, right? You have acid derivatives also. We'll see about that. We actually, this contains 4 parts: acids, ketones, sorry, aldehydes, ketones, acids, and its derivatives, right? Those are the things we'll be actually studying. Okay. Anyways, so first we'll start with aldehydes or ketones only, right? Because they are going to have this particular thing common, right? They are both going to have the C double bond O common. Okay, you can tell even acid is actually going to have C double bond O, but that is actually having another functional group along with this carbon, that is OH, right? But in this case, right, in the case of aldehydes and ketones, there is going to be one C double bond O, right? And then depending on what are the 2 other groups attached here, right, you'll be able to either call it as aldehyde or ketone, right? Say for example, if at all at least one of them, right, at least one of the 2 remaining bonds is with hydrogen, right, that is going to become an aldehyde, right? Right. So how do we write generally aldehyde? CHO. Now what is the exact structure? We write it as CHO like this. There is one more one missing. Some other group will come, CH3H or something will come, right? But the moment you see one of the hydrogen attached to the C double bond to a carbon, right, that is going to become an aldehyde, right? Okay. Same way, if at all we have this C double bond O with 2 carbon atoms attached, not hydrogens, right? With 2 carbon atoms attached, obviously they will have the other 4 groups are there, no issues. If you see that the carbonyl carbon, okay. Now one more technical term coming into the picture. This C double bond O carbon is what is called as carbonyl carbon. Very important. Okay. This C double bond O carbon is what is called as carbonyl carbon, right? Okay. Now with that being said, to the carbonyl carbon, that is not the carbon having C double bond O, right? If you see that 2 other carbon atoms attached, right, that is going to become a ketone. Very simple, right? We represent generally we represent ketone as RCO R dash, something like this. We know this R is one alkyl group, R dash can be same or different alkyl group, doesn't matter, right? Okay. Now, other thing what you have to understand about this carbonyl bonds, right? This C double bond O, if you look into this, right? Now we can easily say that this carbon atom is sp2 hybridized, right? Now, I think you know how to find the hybridizations. There is something called a steric number. Steric number is equal to number of atoms bonded to the central atom plus the number of lone pairs on the central atom. On the central atom, Ca, right? That is how you find the steric number, and according to the steric number, you will be able to find the hybridization also. Right. Okay. Now, if you look into this carbonyl carbon, this particular carbon, if I want to know what is the hybridization, right, we can use the formula, right? Number of atoms bonded to the central atom, right? So we have to understand how many other atoms are there which are attached to this particular carbon. That is 1 oxygen, 1 other atom here, 3rd atom here, right? So if I want to calculate the steric number, it is going to be 3. 3 atoms are there. 3 other atoms are bonded to the carbonyl carbon. Okay, fine. Now then we have to find any lone pairs are there on this only the central atom. Please be very careful, right? We have to find whether lone pairs are there on the central atom. That is, if you know that oxygen has a lone pair and you put the number of lone pairs of 1 or 2 here, that's absolutely wrong. We are talking only about the carbonyl carbon, right? And that if you check, you are not going to have any lone pairs present, right? So there are no lone pairs. So the steric number comes out to be 3. And if you find the steric number is 3, the hybridization is sp2 hybridized. Okay, right? So if someone asks you what is the hybridization of the carbonyl carbon, you have to tell them that it is going to be sp2 hybridized. Okay, fine. Now another important thing about the C double bond O is that, right, if you check the C double bond O, I know oxygen is more electronegative, right? Oxygen is more electronegative. Carbon is comparatively less electronegative than oxygen. Isn't it? Oxygen is more electronegative, carbon is less electronegative, and whenever we know that we are going to have these kind of difference in electronegativity, what is going to come into the picture? What
Dipole moment, sir. Dipole
Sorry?
moment. Dipole moment.
Good, good. Dipole moment will come into the picture. Good. These kind of compounds are going to be called as what kind of compounds?
Polarized, sir.
Okay, not polarized. Oh, yeah, they are polarized. These are what are called as polar compounds, right? Or polar bonds, we call it. Right. So whenever you see that there is a difference in electronegativity, that is one less electronegative atom and one more electronegative atom is going to be there is always going to be the charge separation. Right. Now, if at all these two atoms are equally electronegative, we have spoken about this so many number of times. Again, I'm telling you, right? If at all you see that the bonding atoms are of same electronegativity, for example, say H, Cl, Cl, something like the same electronegativity difference, you will find that the electron density is going to be at the exact center of these two nuclei, right? Because both of them will try to pull electrons with equal power on the opposite sides, right? Okay, so the electron cloud will be exactly there at the center of the chlorine atoms, or say the equally electronegative atoms. But in this case, since this will pull the electron with more power and this is going to pull the electron only with lesser power, right? So the electron cloud will be more towards oxygen, right? Because oxygen is more electronegative, it is going to pull the electron towards itself. And because of that, what is going to happen? Because of that, there is going to be a development of partial negative charge on oxygen, right? Because there's going to be a partial negative charge on oxygen. And if I talk about carbon, from carbon, the electron cloud is moving away from it, right? So we can easily say that here carbon will possess a partial positive charge, not a full positive charge, not a full negative charge, right? But a partial positive charge towards the more electronegative element. Sorry, partial negative charge towards the more electronegative element and partial positive charge regarding towards the less electronegative element. Right? This happens for any polar compound or any bond which is polar, wherever you have electronegativity difference. Right? Now, because of this particular property, right? Because that this molecule or this bond is going to be highly polar because of the electronegativity difference, you will see that a lot of physical properties, lot of chemical properties of the aldehydes and ketones or even carboxylic acids are actually going to depend on these things. That is the polarity, the dipole moment, and all those things are actually going to influence the molecule in some way or the other, right? We'll see what are the effects. Because of this, what is going to happen? You will really appreciate this, right? Okay, one consequence of having this, polar C double bond O is that you know that there can be a reaction called as nucleophilic addition reaction. Right? I don't know whether you know this, right? You read nucleophilic substitution. Yes, nucleophilic substitution, SN1, SN2, all those things you already studied in your haloalkanes and haloarenes, right? Now what are you going to see? We are going to see nucleophilic addition reaction. I think from the name itself, you will be able to understand what is a nucleophile. Can someone tell me what is a nucleophile? What do you mean by
Negatively charged things which are attracted towards the positively
correct,
nucleus.
right? So yes, absolutely, right? So a nucleo means nucleus, positive charge. Philic means loving, right? So they have attraction towards positive charges. They have love for positive charges, right? Okay. Again, nucleophiles can be of two types. What are they? Nucleophiles, two types of nucleophiles. Can they be only negative charges?
I think they can be neutral also.
Exactly, right? So I can have neutral nucleophiles as well as charged or negative nucleophiles, negatively charged nucleophiles, right? Say for example, Cl minus, Br minus, all these things, whichever has normal negative charges, obviously they'll have love for the positive center because they are negatively charged. Other than that, we can have molecules like ammonia, water, all these things doesn't have any negative charge, but since they have these lone pairs present, right? Now these lone pairs have attraction for the positive center. Okay, these lone pairs have attraction for the positive center. So that's why we say that nucleophiles can be of two types: neutral nucleophiles like water, ammonia, and stuff, and then you have negatively charged nucleophiles. Okay, so what I'm telling you is here about this nucleophilic addition reaction. Okay, that means what? If you look at this people, if you look at this C double bond O, right? Now huge class of reactions actually, right? One of the most predominant reactions given by these carbonyl compounds, that is what aldehydes and ketones, is actually this reaction, nucleophilic addition reaction. How? Now look at this people. Now, if at all I have a nucleophile coming, right? What are we going to do? we are going to add the nucleophile across the C double bond, right? We are going to add the nucleophile across the C double bond, right? Okay. So now this nucleophile, well, whether it will attack this carbon or this oxygen is the question now, right?
Carbon.
And obviously it will attack carbon only. Why? Because we
Electron
understood-
deficient, sir.
Exactly. It is because I have a delta positive, right? Del positive on the carbon and del negative on the oxygen, right? So this nucleophile being negatively charged will have attraction for the positive center only. So it is going to come and attack here. And obviously this bond is going to break. Is it not? Because if this carbon and the nucleophile forms a new bond, right? I cannot have 5 bonds for the carbon, right? So one of the pi bond breaks. Very simple, right? So we will have something like this. Okay, O minus obviously comes because it is heterolytic cleavage, oxygen gets the electrons, so minus, right? So then if at all, say for example, if you have a H plus, now that can be taken up by the O minus to form say OH, another bond, and the nucleophile, something like this. So what are you seeing? You are actually seeing that the nucleophile is getting added across the C double bond C. And this is happening why? This is happening because this carbon is going to have a delta positive, a partial positive charge. And obviously, as you said, it is going to be electron deficient. Yes, true. Right? So this is one consequence, and you will see numerous like this, so many reactions happening because of this polarity of the C double bond. Okay, right. Fine. So if it is sp2 hybridized, okay, we talked about the hybridization. We talked about what is the what are the criteria so to look for the bond formation and stuff. Right now, another thing you have to understand is since it is sp2 hybridized, obviously this molecule is or this particular carbon is going to be a planar carbon, right? What is the if I have sp2 hybridization? What is the shape of the compound?
Trigonal coplanar.
Trigonal, yeah, coplanar or planar. We generally say trigonal planar. Coplanar is too mathematical, right? Generally, we say it as trigonal planar. Yeah, trigonal planar to be exact. Yes, correct. Right. Okay. So it's trigonal planar. That means what? You will be able to represent everything in the same plane, right? This bond, this C double bond, everything is in the same plane which you're seeing. My plane of the my laptop screen, plane of your phone screen, right? All those that there only the molecules are present. It is planar, right? So these are all the things you can remember or understand about this C double bond or carbons. All right, people. Next, moving on to physical properties. Okay, right. So physical properties, again, you know what we'll be studying in physical properties. We'll be studying about two things, right? One is boiling point, melting point. Boiling point, most probably, right? And then second thing is that you will be studying about the solubility. Okay, right, fine. Now, we know for any functional group given to you, right, whatever be the functional group, alcohol, hydrocarbon, alkenes, whatever be the functional group given to you, right? Now, for you to compare your molecular masses, for you to compare your boiling points, we take 3 parameters, right? For if I will give you say pentanol and pentanone, right? I give you alcohol and an aldehyde, or an alcohol and a ketone, alcohol and an acid, something like that, right? Or say 2 different alcohols or 2 different acids, something like that I give you. You always go for certain 3 parameters. Right? Can someone list it out? What are the 3 parameters which you have to check for boiling points from the knowledge of the previous organic chapters? Can you tell me?
Increase in branching means decrease in boiling point.
Okay, one is branching. Fine.
Presence of hydrogen
carbon.
Okay, hydrogen bonding is also another point. Okay.
And it's mass, like number of carbon
atoms.
Number of carbon atoms. Can you
molecular mass, sir?
Molecular mass. Yes, that's a better word to put. Right. So boiling point is going to be directly proportional to the molecular mass. That is one thing. It is inversely proportional to the branching. Right. And at last, it is directly proportional to the extent of hydrogen bonding. Right. How strong? It's not only about having hydrogen bonding. If at all I give you 2 molecules which are capable of forming hydrogen bonds, then how do you decide? Whichever is going to form a stronger hydrogen bond will have more boiling point. That's why we say extent of boiling point. Right, sorry, extent of hydrogen bonding. Okay, fine. This is under this I can understand, right? But why is it that when I have more molecular mass, more boiling point is recommended? If at all I have more molecular mass, there will be more boiling point? Why is it like this?
Because more number of carbon atoms will be there, no, sir.
Okay, so
Sir, so it can easily form bonds and attract hydrogen atoms.
I think the van der Waals force increases because of more number of electrons and nucleus.
That makes sense. That makes sense, right? It was Mithun, right? Who first answered? Mithun, right?
Yes, sir, Mithun,
Now,
sir.
please understand, if at all, for example, if at all I have, say, pentanol, okay, and this is in liquid state, right? Now, what am I doing if I go for boiling, right? What will happen? This will go to pentanol in gaseous state, correct? That is what we do in boiling, right? So pentanol is still pentanol only. Are you breaking any chemical bonds? Are you forming any chemical bonds? No, right? Right? So we will not be able to speak about the bonds present here. What we should talk about is, say, this is one pentanol molecule, another pentanol molecule, another pentanol. All of them will have some attractive forces, right? All of them will have some attractive forces in the liquid state, right? Now, what I'm trying to do, I am trying to make them go far apart from each other. Is it not? So that their force of attraction is decreased. This is in gaseous state, right? So what I have to do, this is one particular chemical compound, this is another same compound, and there will be some intermolecular forces, secondary bonds we call them in chemistry, right? These intermolecular forces has to be broken, right? That is why we supply energy, that's why we supply temperature and stuff, right? So if at all I'm going to have very strong forces in between these two molecules, then it is going to be higher and higher in temperature, higher and higher in energy required for us to overcome these very strong forces of attraction, right? So now the reason why we say molecular mass is actually because more molecular mass means more number of electrons will be there, right? And we understand more number of electrons means more van der Waals force will be there. Like, if at all you want to study about van der Waals force, we can study about it now also, no issues, right? So more number of electrons, more number of van der Waals force will be there. So more stronger attractive force will be there. So we have to supply more and more and more temperature, or more and more and more energy for us to go from liquid state to the gaseous state, right? Okay, fine. Can someone, by in simple words, explain what exactly is van der Waals force?
Attraction between nucleus, right? I mean, between atoms.
Yeah, obviously. How is it there? Like, for example, if at all I say dipole interaction. Now what happens? Now here I have, say, for example, HF molecule, another HF molecule. Now this is a polar bond, del negative, del positive, del positive, del negative. Again, you see that partial positive, partial negative, opposite attraction. So between one molecule, another molecule, I have some force of attraction. This is dipole interaction, right? So like this, how will you explain your van der Waals forces?
Force between polar molecules.
Van der Waals force need, like, what to say? It need not exist only for polar molecule. It is universal force. It's like a gravitational force. Anything and everything which has electrons, right? Whether they are moving or not moving, doesn't matter.
It's only
right?
applicable for noble gases.
Not necessarily. Between anything and everything, we have van der Waals force, right? It's like gravity. It's like universal force. Wherever you see some kind of force of attraction, that is going to be van der Waals force. Okay, people, let us study what exactly is that. Okay, now assume that there is this nucleus, okay, and there are orbits, okay, and there is one electron. Okay, this is one atom, right? Now I have the neighboring atoms also. Okay, neighboring atom also will have the nucleus, that will have the orbits, that will have electrons. Okay, let me put the electron this side. Okay, right. So the electron is here, assuming something like this. Okay, right. Now what I'm going to do is that, I mean, we are not going to do anything. We know that electrons revolve around the nucleus, right? They are not going to be in one point only. They're going to be moving around this nucleus, right? Say, assume that it is going from this particular point to this particular point. Okay, right? It is going from point A to point B. I don't want to mention the points because I need the space for something else, right? So the electron is actually moving from here to here. All right. Okay. Now only that particular instance only I'm taking. Okay. Now, can we compare this to a situation where we had polar bonds? Okay. What happened in polar bonds? The electron cloud was supposed to be the center, right? But it is not there. It is moving towards one particular atom, say the more electronegative atom, right? Now, since that electron cloud was moving from the center towards the more electronegative atom, what is happening? Charge separation was happening, isn't it? One atom, whichever is more electronegative, whichever atom towards which the electron moved, that got a partial negative charge, right? And whichever atom from which electron moved away from, that element got a partial positive charge, right? Now, something is happening because of electron cloud moving, isn't it? Partial positive, partial negative, right? So now I can actually, apply the same analogy here also. Now the electron is moving from this particular point. I say to let me use black color. Okay, right? From this black color point, right? It is moving away, right? And towards this red color point, it is moving. Actually, it is moving towards the red color point, right? So can I tell whichever point it has moved away from would have got a partial positive charge, right? And whichever position now it has moved to, that will get a partial negative charge, right? Now that is okay. We understood that partial positive and partial negative can be created, right? Like this, every instance, every nanosecond, every femtosecond, you will see that this del plus and del minus coming and going, because it's going to be very, very fast, right? Electron almost moves the speed of light, right? Okay, now the same kind of thing can be explained, like, explained here also. Say this moves from this point to this point for that matter. Okay, it is moving like this, right? So can I tell this particular point will get a partial positive charge because the electron cloud is moving away from this point, and towards this point I'm going to have a partial negative charge because towards that point I'm going to have a the electron cloud is moving towards that point, so partial negative, right? Now you see people, del positive, del negative, attractive force, del negative, del positive, attractive force. Now this attractive force is what is called as your Van der Waals force, right? This attractive force is what is going to be called as Van der Waals force. That is why even if I have one electron, everything and anything is made up of atoms. All matter is made up of atoms, and all atoms are made up of electrons, right? So anything and everything which has electron will have Van der Waals force. That's why we say it's universal, right? That is why it is actually a universal force, because everything contains electrons except for very few species, right? So I hope you now understood what exactly is Van der Waals force. Now, if like this, if the number of electrons keeps on increasing, now instead of having one electron, say I have 1,000 electrons, now I have 200 electrons, obviously there'll be more and more and more of this attractive force, right? Okay, cool. So we understood how molecular mass, if it increases, how it increases the boiling point, how it, because Van der Waals force and stuff. Okay, now what about branching, right? Now what you have to understand is if branching increases, right, the surface area decreases and obviously the boiling point will decrease. We don't have to go into the details of this, right? Because this Van der Waals force, which I'm telling you, right, is also going to depend on the surface area. Okay, so if branching increases or decreases, it changes surface area, and accordingly the Van der Waals force will change, and then the boiling point will change. Now all that which you have to understand is that as the branching increases, the boiling point will decrease. That's it. That is all that you have to understand, right? Okay, now if at all I have to take some examples, right? Now look at this, right? If I have to take some examples, right? Say if I take CH3CHO with CH3CH2CHO, right? These are two different aldehydes. Now I can easily tell that this is going to have more boiling point for sure, because this is going to have more molecular mass. These are very simple questions, right? Okay, fine. Now in the case of okay, look at this. Let me ask you a question, right? Okay, now we have this particular aldehyde. This is an aldehyde, okay, and this is going to be a ketone, right? And if you actually check their molecular formulas, they will have same molecular formula, same number of carbon atoms, same number of hydrogen atoms, and one oxygen atom, one oxygen atom. Everything will be exactly same. Okay, and you see that the branching is also not changing. This is also 4 atom in the main chain. This is also 4 carbon atom in the main chain. The branching is also not changing, right? Now think about it and tell me which R will go for a poll, right? I want everybody to go to the chat box and type which is going to have more boiling point, aldehyde or ketone. Go for it. If you feel that aldehyde is going to have more boiling point, type aldehyde. If you feel that ketone is going to have the more boiling point, type ketone. Like, you need not be right, you need not be wrong. You don't know whether you're wrong or right, just type it. I just want to know how you think about it, right? I'm looking at the chat box. Just type aldehyde or ketone, which is going to have more boiling point. Okay, ketone. Everybody says ketone. Okay, fine. Any other answers anybody wants to give? We have 14 people. Come on, everybody participate. Okay. Fine. Everybody says ketone. Any one of you want to represent your whole team and tell why do you think it's ketone? Or it's just a, I mean, some of you would have just guessed it. Okay, no issues.
Sir, because carbon oxygen bond is polarized, sir. So interactions will be stronger, sir.
Wait. Let me address that point. Carbon oxygen bond is a polar bond. Now, C double bond was present in both aldehyde as well as ketone. Correct? So polar bond is there in both the cases. Okay, what is the next argument?
I think in ketones, intramolecular hydrogen bonds are there, and in aldehydes, intermolecular hydrogen bonds are there.
Okay, let me come to that point. Neither aldehyde nor ketone is going to have hydrogen bonding. Okay, I'll explain to you that why. Why is it like this?
So can I try,
Yeah,
sir?
sir, I think I did a mistake because it have two electronegative atoms, right? So
I'll come back to that. This is a common mistake everybody does. Yes, Rohan, go on. What do you think?
The ketone is generally more polar than aldehyde, sir, but ketone has two alkyl groups. Alkyl groups will help stabilize the compound more. More stable, more higher boiling point.
Okay. Guys, in this case, let us check. Okay, let us check. Right. Now, other than Van der Waals forces,
Sir,
other than, yeah, go on.
Sir, in ketones, carbon oxygen double bond is there, no, sir. So we need
There also
more.
double bond is there, man. Look, how do you write the formula? CH3, CH2, CH2, C double bond OH.
Sir,
That's
but
it.
in ketone, we need more energy to break that bond, no, sir.
That is exactly what we are talking about. We are not talking about breaking any bonds. All we are doing is just boiling, right? Just converting the liquid state into the gaseous state. We are not breaking any bonds, right? Okay. Now, people, other than the Van der Waals force, right? Other than normal Van der Waals force, because they have just electrons, right? What other kind of interaction can you think of for aldehydes and ketones? We have Van der Waals force. What other secondary interactions you know? Van der Waals force, hydrogen bonding, then anything else? Okay, now just now I mentioned one thing, right? Dipole interaction, right? Dipole interaction. Okay, now please let me tell you this, right? See, whenever we spoke about boiling points, right? What are the forces between two molecules or two atoms, not the chemical bonds? If at all I have atomic species, then you have to talk about this interatomic forces. Okay. Now, whenever boiling point you want to consider, you are actually going to consider the intermolecular forces, right? What are the different forces of attraction between two molecules, not between the atoms? Okay, right? Fine. What are the different types of intermolecular forces I can have? One is hydrogen bonding, that is very famous. The other one is Van der Waals force, that also we know now. Right. The third one is going to be dipole interaction, and there is one more called as dipole ion interaction. Right. And other than that, we have little smaller, like say different variations of Van der Waals forces, like London forces, dispersion forces, something we have. But don't worry about it. These four are the most common ones. Okay. Hydrogen bonding, Van der Waals forces, dipole interactions, and dipole ion interaction. Again, dipole ion interactions again are very, very rare. So only these three. Okay. Hydrogen bonding, Van der Waals forces, and dipole interactions. Okay. Now, okay, we know what is Van der Waals force. Hydrogen bonding I will teach you, don't worry. Now, what about this dipole interaction? What exactly is this? From the name itself, you can understand, right? One dipole and another dipole, between them there is some force of attraction. right? One dipole, another dipole, force of attraction. That force of attraction is what is called as dipole-dipole interaction, right? Now, first what I understand is, what do you mean by a dipole? Can someone give me the proper exact definition of what a dipole is? What do you mean by a dipole? In physics, you have studied, right?
Molecule which has both positive and negative charge separated by some distance.
Okay. So if at all, like, chemically, yes, correct. What you told is correct, right? If at all I just want a physical definition, right? I'll tell that this is nothing but equal and opposite charges. Equal and opposite charges separated by some distance. Separated by some distance. Right? That is the definition of what a dipole is. All right. What is a dipole? A dipole, two poles, two opposite poles, positive, negative, in between some space. That's it. That arrangement is what is called as a dipole. Plus q, minus q, between that some distance d. This entire arrangement is what is called as a dipole. Okay. Now, people, can you not easily, correlate this to a polar compound? Right. Now, look at this. We have this C double bond O, right? C double bond O is there. Okay. Now that is having a del positive, and that is the oxygen is having a del negative. These are equal and opposite charges. Del and del only some value, plus and minus, opposite, and separated by a distance between these two nuclei, that is carbon and oxygen. Right. So this is exactly the dipole which we have. Right. So what we have to understand is dipole-dipole interactions exist only in the case of polar molecules. For non-polar molecules, obviously, dipole-dipole interactions cannot be there because this kind of charge separation won't come. Right. Okay. Now we have, don't you see that we have another C double bond O will be there in the picture, and that is going to have del positive and the oxygen is going to have del negative. Can't you see that the del negative oxygen and the del positive carbon can have an attractive force? Same way this can continue. Another carbon I can put. One C double bond, del plus, del minus, again this del negative and this del positive, again I can have some attractive force. Okay. Now these two attractive forces, whatever I'm mentioning, is what is called as a dipole-dipole attractive force or dipole-dipole interaction. Right. One dipole is there. Right. Another dipole is there. The attractive force existing between them is what is called as dipole-dipole interactions. Okay. Right. So what I understand is this del positive, more and more is the amount of this del, right, the amount of charge which I have, more and more will be the strength of the dipole-dipole interaction. Is it not? More and more is the amount of charge. When I compare, say, -1 + 1 with -2 and +2, obviously -2 and +2 will have more force of attraction. Right? So obviously more is the amount of charge, more will be the strength of this attractive force. Okay. Keeping that in mind, if we work on this, right? If we work on this aldehyde and ketone, look at this, people, right? Aldehyde is going to have one hydrogen and, say, for example, one R. Okay, CH3 or something is there. Okay, but when I go to a ketone, I have a C double bond O, and both of them are R and R. Right? Now, answer me this question. Okay, R, that is an alkyl group, is electron withdrawing group or electron donating group? Now wait, don't say any answer. Go for the chat box and tell me. If you feel that R, any alkyl group, is an electron withdrawing group, type EWG, right? If you find that if you feel they're going to be electron donating groups, type EDG. Answer me this question. Go to the chat box and put your answers. Right? EWG or EDG, electron withdrawing group or electron donating group, R groups. Okay, electron donating group. Okay, electron donating group, fine. Anybody else wants to contribute? Please go on. ERG, what is ER? Where is R?
You're releasing group, sir.
Okay, fine. Electron donating group, right? Okay, done. Correct. Okay, fine. Okay, right. So yeah, all of you are correct, right? They are actually electron donating groups, right? Now we know all alkyl groups are electron donating groups, right? So now this is going to have, say, del 1 positive, and this carbon, say, has del 2 positive. Okay, because of the hydrogen here, R here, and R here. Okay. Now, so now you told me that it is going to be an electron donating group only, right? Now compare del 1 positive, del 2 positive, which is greater? Again, go to the chat box and tell me which is greater, del 1 plus is greater or del 2 plus is greater. Go to the chat box and answer these questions. Which is greater? What sign I have to put it? This is greater, this is greater. Del 1 or del 2? Go to the chat box and answer this. Okay, Mithil says del 2 is greater. Okay, fine. Come on, everybody, contribute. You need not be right always. That is not an issue here at all. Okay, Satyapriya says del 2 is greater. Varun also says, okay. People, you told me that the alkyl groups are electron donating in nature, right? That's what you told me, right? Okay, fine. Now, if this particular group and this particular group is going to donate electrons to this, okay. Now, in this case, I have only one electron donating group, which is donating electron to this, okay. Now, we understand the electron is negatively charged, okay. Now, here, less number of electrons are going towards the positive charge. Here, can I say double the amount of electrons are going towards the positive charge? Right? So, more and more negative charge goes towards the positive charge carbon. Can I say the positive charge will decrease, people? Again, I repeat. Now, we know that alkyl groups are electron donating in nature, right? That means they are going to donate negative charge to the carbon, which is positively charged. Right? So more and more is the amount of electron donation, more and more is the amount of electron donated. Can I say less and less will be the positive, because it is going to get neutralized, positive by negative? Is it not? Now in ketone, what is happening? 2 electron donating groups are there. So obviously the del 2 negative value is lesser than the del 1 positive value. That we can say for sure. Why? Because the alkyl groups are electron donating in nature. So the amount of positive charge on the carbon is decreased in the case of ketone. Right? So if del 1 plus is greater than del 2 plus, now we understood that the strength of attractive force, the strength of dipole-dipole interaction is going to be more in the case of aldehyde and less in the case of ketone. Right? So now where we started this? We started with this discussion. Same molecular mass, same amount of branching, but if I give you an aldehyde and a ketone, we can definitely say that an aldehyde is going to have more boiling point than the ketone. Okay? Right? Just because the ketone word looks fancy, right? Just because it has a carbon in between 2 other carbons doesn't mean that is going to be the dot. Right? It is going to be the aldehyde is actually going to be more reactive, which is the aldehyde is going to have more boiling point. It's going to be the aldehyde is actually going to have more solubility in water, and everything you will see that the aldehyde wins.
So I have a doubt, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
The more stable a compound is, the more higher the boiling point, right, sir?
More stable the compound is, less reactive it is. That we can say.
But that also means the boiling point is high for that.
Sir,
wait. We'll finish the discussion. 1 second.
Sir,
So wait. If the molecule is stable, right? See, stable with respect to what you have to speak. Right? Is it stable
In respect to the force, the overall compound stability is stable.
Yeah, overall compound stability is high. Yes, we can say that. But again, I know where are you coming, right? You are saying that here we have more number of CC bonds, right? That is going to make it more stable. It is not like that, right? It is these kind of bonds, if you check, right? These bonds, the chemical bonds, if you check, you have to talk only in terms of chemical reactivity. So chemical stability, you have to speak, right? But between one molecule and another molecule, what kind of force you have? Between this molecule and the next molecule, what force you have? If that force you talk, if you say that way it is very highly stable, that way it has very strong force of attraction, then you can say the high boiling point will be there. But if you talk about the chemical nature, that is the chemical bonds between the molecule, you have to talk only in terms of chemical reactivity or chemical stability. Are you able to get the point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right? Yeah. Well, someone else was telling something?
Sir, you said reactivity is lesser, no, sir?
Yeah.
So reactivity is lesser means it's difficult to break the bond, no, sir?
Yeah, okay.
When it's difficult to break the bond, we need more energy, no, sir?
Okay. No. That's the thing. If you're talking about bonds, we're talking about this CC bond, C double bond, O bond, that bond we're talking. Right? Now, these bond, if they are broken, that means this molecule itself will not be there. Right? So, but that is not what we're trying to do here. We are just trying to convert the same molecule, same molecular formula, same number of CC bonds, everything in liquid state to gaseous state. That's what we're trying to do. Okay, I hope you get the point. Yes, Mithun?
Okay, sir.
Right? Okay, good. Right, so that is about, okay, no, it's not yet over, right? We understood that generally, more molecular mass, more boiling point. If I give you same mass of aldehyde and ketone, now aldehyde is going to have more boiling point. Okay, now what if I give you an aldehyde with an alcohol, right? Then what happens? For example, I'm asking you CH3, CH2, CH2, OH, right? And we have CH3, CH2, CHO, right? Now we have these two compounds with us, right? Now think about it and tell me, almost same molecular mass, okay? Now you can tell that one hydrogen atom is missing and all stuff, almost same molecular mass, not the exact same.
Alcohol only.
Alcohols will have more boiling points, sir.
Okay.
Because of hydrogen bonding.
Absolutely, because of hydrogen bonding. Right? Okay. So now we understand that if at all they have similar molecular masses, right? 3 carbon atoms, 1 oxygen atom, almost everything is similar except for hydrogen atom. Hydrogen atom is only 1 gram. Don't worry about it. Now, even if I give you those kind of cases, we can tell for sure that the alcohols will have more boiling point than the corresponding aldehyde or ketone. Right? As the reason was told correctly, it is because we are going to have hydrogen bonding. Right? Hydrogen bonding is possible in case of alcohols, right? But hydrogen bonding is not possible in the case of ketones. Okay, people, how do you decide whether hydrogen bonding is possible in a molecule and how is it not possible in a molecule? How do you do that?
So when an electronegative atom is present
Around
between
hydrogen,
then its bond is possible, sir.
If I have just electronegative atom, that is enough. So that means in case of aldehyde and ketone also, we have an electronegative element.
Sir, but it is present. It is not in between the hydrogen atoms, no, sir.
One second. Yeah, I think yes. Nikhilesh was telling something. So what was the second thing? Nikhilesh, I think, was telling something, right?
So 2 hydrogens. I mean, I think along with hydrogen and electronegative atom must be
Sir,
there.
that electronegative atom should be in between the hydrogen atoms, no, sir.
In between the hydrogen atoms. Okay, I understand what you're trying to say. Yes. Okay. So the correct way of putting it is, people, right? For hydrogen bonding to happen, right? For hydrogen bonding to happen, we need 2 things. 2 requirements are there. Okay. One are what are called as hydrogen donors, right? We need to have something called as hydrogen donors, right? Okay. And we need to have something called as hydrogen acceptors. Okay, right. And obviously there is going to be some kind of force of attraction between this hydrogen donor and the hydrogen acceptor, and that is nothing. That attractive force is nothing but hydrogen bonding. Okay, so one molecule is going to act as hydrogen donor, the other molecule is going to act as a hydrogen acceptor, and in between these 2 molecules, some force of attraction. I'll tell you how the force of attraction comes. This force of attraction is what is called as hydrogen bonding. Okay. Right. Now, how do you decide whether a particular molecule can act as a hydrogen donor? That is very simple, as what you have told. The first definition. We need to have a highly electronegative element. Correct. But along with the electronegative element or to the highly electronegative element, we should have a hydrogen atom bonded to it. Very simple. Right. We need to have hydrogen. We need to have highly electronegative element, and both of them should be bonded with each other. Right, like for example, and you have only 3 possibilities for this highly electronegative atoms: oxygen, nitrogen, or fluorine. Okay, so in a molecule, if you find that there are OH bonds, or say NH bonds, or say FH bonds, if you find that you have those bonds, then definitely these can be hydrogen donors. Okay, that means this particular hydrogen can be, say, involved in hydrogen bonding. This hydrogen can involve in hydrogen bonding. Okay, right. Next, what are hydrogen acceptors? Hydrogen acceptors are the one which are very simple. Hydrogen acceptors are anything which has lone pairs. Very simple. Very simple. right? If at all you see that there is one molecule, and in that molecule there is one atom, and that atom has a lone pair, set, done. That can act as hydrogen acceptor, right? But for hydrogen bonding to happen, both of these should be there, not only one, right? Both the hydrogen donor as well as the hydrogen acceptor should be there in the molecule. Okay, right. Now let us take the example of, say, water molecule, and let us try to understand what exactly is happening between two water molecules. Okay, right. We are always talking about between two molecules. Please understand, right, people? Fine. Now we understand that this oxygen OH bond, this OH bond, both of them are polar bonds. Okay, that means, can I tell del positive will be there, del negative will be there, del positive will be there on the hydrogens and oxygen. Same way, del positive here, del negative here, del positive here. Okay, now you understand that it is because of this very high value of del, it is because only this particular bond now is going to act as a hydrogen donor, right? That means this particular hydrogen is having a del plus is going to have some attractive force, right? There are two ways of looking into it. Okay, there are two ways of actually looking into it, right? One, you can definitely say that we are going to have del positive on this hydrogen, del negative on this oxygen, so I can have some attractive force, right? But the correct exact way of saying it is that we have a hydrogen which is having high del positive, and you have the next molecule of water having this oxygen having lone pair, right? Again, lone pair is again a very beautiful negative charge. So the attractive force between the del positive hydrogen and the lone pair on the next molecule, this one is nothing but hydrogen bonding, right? Now I can do one more hydrogen bonding also, say del positive, and you have a lone pair on this carbon, so I can have an attractive force here also. This is also hydrogen bonding, right? And whichever is giving you the lone pair, this particular atom now in this case what is going to be called as the hydrogen acceptor, right? And this one is what is the hydrogen donor, and in this case this is going to be the hydrogen donor, and this oxygen atom is going to be the hydrogen acceptor, right? You understand, right? So a molecule with itself, H2 with H2O, alcohol with alcohol, this kind of hydrogen bonding is possible only if both the characteristics are satisfied. That means both hydrogen donor capability as well as hydrogen acceptor capability. Excuse me. Just I'll be back in 1 minute. Okay, I'll just fill water and come. 1 minute. So yeah, what I was trying to say is that if at all you want the same between same molecule, H2O, H2O, alcohol, alcohol, if you want them to have hydrogen bonding, the hydrogen donor capabilities as well as the hydrogen acceptor capability should be there in the same molecule, right? You understand that the OH bond can be a hydrogen donor, and since oxygen atom is having a lone pair, definitely a hydrogen acceptor, right? Now let us check whether alcohols have this. You can easily see here that I have a OH, yes. So I have an oxygen attached with hydrogen, definitely a hydrogen donor, right? And then you see that this can have a del positive and they can have a del negative, and also oxygen has two lone pairs, obviously, right? So one molecule hydrogen donor, the next molecule of alcohol can act as hydrogen acceptor, hydrogen bonding is possible. Okay, right? But in the case of, say, aldehyde or a ketone, for example, this aldehyde, right? Now what do you see? First of all, there is no hydrogen donor. Why? Because all that we have is only CH bonds. Now what did I tell you? We need to have either of these three bonds, right? OH bond, NH bond, or FH bond should have been there for hydrogen bonding, right? But in this case, what we have just only CH bond, that cannot be accounted for, right? But you understand that there is oxygen that has lone pair. Okay, so it can act as hydrogen acceptor, no doubt about it, right? But one aldehyde with another aldehyde, can I have hydrogen bonding? No, because there is no hydrogen donor capabilities, right? But if there is some other molecule, for example, if I dissolve an aldehyde into water, right, then I could have had actually hydrogen bonding between water and the aldehyde. Possible, right? Because now this molecule actually has hydrogen acceptor capabilities, and water would have actually had hydrogen donor capabilities, and I would have had hydrogen bonding between them. That is possible. But between one aldehyde, another aldehyde, no, you cannot have hydrogen bonding. Right? That's the reason why generally the alcohols of comparable molecular masses will have more boiling point than the corresponding aldehyde or ketone. Right? Okay, so those are the different things you have to know about your boiling point. Done. So now we talk about is solubility. Anybody has any questions to ask? Okay, fine. What is the time? We have half an hour, right? Fine. So now we are going to speak about solubility. Okay, right. Now we are going to solubility. See about the what do you mean by solubility? Ability to get dissolved. Ability to get dissolved. Right. So we are going to see solubility in water. Okay. So obviously, ability of the aldehyde or the ketone to get dissolved in water is what you're trying to study. Right. Now we know whenever we talk about solubility, what is the famous mantra? What is
like
the famous
dissolves
mantra?
like dissolves like.
Good. Like dissolves like. Right? Okay, that means polar solute will dissolve only in polar solvent. And vice versa for non-polar solute and non-polar solvent. Okay, so if at all I have polar solutes, they will dissolve only in polar solvents, and non-polar solutes will dissolve only in non-polar solvents. Right? Now we know that since we have this C double bond O in both aldehyde and ketone, this bond being polar, right, will be making sure that this is going to be soluble in water, because I know H2O is also a polar compound. Right? So all aldehydes and ketones are going to be more soluble. I mean, they are generally soluble in water. Okay, they are generally soluble in water. Now, you can speak about this polar, non-polar, or as I told you, you can also speak in terms of hydrogen bonding. Right? People, look at this. If at all we have CH3, C double bond O and H, right? This is normal ethanol. It is. Right? Okay. Now this ethanol, this particular aldehyde or ketone, if I try to dissolve it in alcohol, right? If I would have dissolved it in alcohol, right? Now what would have actually happened? Now these two molecules will be very close by, right? Now this is going to have high solubility in water if the attractive force between this molecule and water is very, very high. Is it not? Only then they'll be able to dissolve properly. Now look at this, people. I actually have a del positive on this hydrogen and del negative on the oxygen, and del positive on this, and there are lone pairs, and del negative on this oxygen. Right? Now let me show you the hydrogen bonding. You have a del plus on the hydrogen is water. Sorry, water is hydrogen, right? And you have a lone pair on the oxygen is carbon with carbon. So that's it. You have attractive force. This is nothing but hydrogen bonding. Right? And because of hydrogen bonding, again, this is going to be huge solubility, very good solubility of of aldehydes and ketones in general. Okay, right. Now, if I ask you, I have CH3, CH2, CHO, and say we have CH3, CHO. Okay. Now, which is going to be more soluble in water?
CH3, CHO.
Why? Why is it like that?
Because carbon chain is very small, sir. Size of the chain is very small.
Okay. If the carbon chain is very small, how is it related to solubility in water?
So it's inversely proportional, sir. Like solubility is inversely proportional to branching, sir.
Branching?
No, sir. That's carbon chain, sir. Length of the chain.
Why?
Sir, more carbon means like it will not be able to form bonds, sir. Van der Waals force will be high.
If more carbon means it will not be able to form what bonds?
Hydrogen
bond. Okay, makes sense. Right. So people, what we have to understand is in any molecule, okay, the hydrocarbon part, right? The hydrocarbon part is actually hydrophobic part. What is hydrophobic? Water? Fear.
Loving.
No, fear. Philic is loving. Phobia is fear, right? Phobic. right? So hydrophobic, right? Hydrocarbon part, the carbon, hydrogen only if you have, right? That part is actually a non-polar part, right? You can also say that it is a non-polar part, right? And obviously it is going to be hydrophobic part. That means it is not going, it is, if it is there, it is going to repel away from water, right? So that is why we say, right? That is why we say the length of the carbon chain, that is nothing but the hydrocarbon part, HC part, right? The more and more is the hydrocarbon part, more and more is the non-polar nature of the cordial molecule, or say I can say the hydrophobic nature of the molecule. Okay, and obviously since it is going to be hydrophobic or non-polar, it is going to be inversely proportional to the solubility in water. Okay, in water specifically. Right, so we understand that this is a very big carbon part. This is a little only one carbon atom part. So this has a lesser hydrocarbon, means lesser hydrophobic part, lesser non-polar part, more polar part. So definitely this is going to be more solid. Okay, right? The same would have happened even if I would have had alcohols. Like I compare, say, butanol with propanol. Propanol would have been more soluble. Okay, right. Now, next question, if I ask you this one, CH3, C double bond O, CH3 with CH3, CH2, C double bond O H, right? Which will have more solubility? Aldehyde or ketone? Yes. Is it going to be aldehyde or ketone?
Sorry,
Yes.
Sir, ketone, sir.
sir.
Okay.
Sir, because
Because
ketones, carbons, either side we have alkyl groups, no, sir. And you said alkyl groups are electron releasing groups.
Okay, fine.
So then it will be more stable, sir. More polarity it will be there, no, sir. So
more polarity or less polarity?
Less, sir.
What happened during the boiling point? When I compared the
electron density will decrease, no, sir. So less only, sir.
See, we are talking about this del positive on this oxygen, right? More and more this del positive, more and more only the polarity. Can I say that? Yes. Okay. Now, in this case, we have two electron donating groups. So this is going to have double decrease, right? In this case, I have only one electron donating group, so only small decrease is happening. Right, so where do I have more del plus? Obviously, this del plus is greater than this del plus, right? Because it is, I have two electron donating groups here, right? So since this is going to be more, this is going to have more amount of charge, so it is more polar, so it is going to be more soluble in water. I hope everybody gets it, what exactly is happening here. Okay, right? So these are electron donating, only one electron donating group. This side, two side electron donating groups are there. So there's going to be double decrease in the positive charge. Here it is going to be only a single decrease because only one side, right? So this del is greater than this del. So this is going to be more polar than this compound. So this is going to be more soluble than this compound in water. Very simple. Right? Okay, cool. So that is about solubilities. Okay, those are the things you have to know about solubility. Right? Okay. Now what we'll do? We'll go for a little about IUPAC naming. Okay. Right. Okay. Now IUPAC naming, what you have to understand is for aldehyde and ketone. Right. So now you have to look into the suffix. Right. Now the suffix is going to be for aldehyde it is Al, and for ketone it is ONE. Right, it is going to be ONE. Right. Okay. Now maybe I'll directly go for the questions. Right. Yeah, go for it. And you can send me the names of the compound in my WhatsApp. Once you write the names, click a picture and send it to me in my WhatsApp. I'll check. You don't have to tell the names here. It will be very clumsy. Okay. Right. Take this compound. Right. Write its name and click a picture. Send me in WhatsApp. I'll check.
Can you send me a number, sir?
What kana?
A number.
Oh, my number. Okay. 8939219916.
Sir, can I write the compound name and send to you, sir?
Yeah, no issues. That also is fine. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, new only, right? You send now.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yes, correct. Yes, I'm still waiting for responses. I hope you're all doing. Please do not sit idle, guys. There is no point in sitting the class idle, right? There's really no point. These are the time I'm giving you time for practice, right? During teaching, getting a practicing time is like a blessing. Almost no teachers will give you. Okay, another photo came. Let me check. Okay. I think this is Rohan, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, correct. Okay, anybody else want to send me? I'll give you 1 more minute to send your answers. Okay, right. So people, we have to know that we have to number the carbon atoms now, right? And the numbering should be done in such a way that the most prioritized functional group will get the lowest possible number, right? Now we understand that in this case there is CH3, Cl, and this part is nothing but CHO part, right? So obviously we know CHO will get the highest priority. So the CHO carbon, that is this particular carbon, should, I think someone sent an answer. Let me check. Okay. This is Nikhilesh, I guess. Who sent this? Who sent this? 7397. Who's this?
So that's not me, sir. I'm still
Who
saving your
sent?
number.
Sir, I said.
Oh, Anandita. Okay, Anandita. Good. Right. Fine. So look at this. There's a small mistake which you did. Okay. Now we understand that
Sir,
this
I
is the
saw right
carbon.
now.
Yeah, exactly. Correct. Right. So this is the carbon which you have to start with, right? The carbon which is having the functional group. In this case, mean carboxylic acid, ketone, and aldehyde are the only functional groups where the functional group itself contains carbon. Right? The other functional group, if you check, say OH or OR, something like that, the OR contains, but not exactly, not directly on the functional group. Right? Anyways, so carbon, aldehyde and the carboxylic acid are the one which are going to have the carbon in the functional group. Okay, so let's start with that carbon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? Very simple. Now all the other things are going to be prefix part, right? So now we have two prefix part. One is chloro, another one is methyl. We have to do write chloro first because alphabetical order, right? So we write 3 chloro, 4 methyl, right? Then you see that for the 5 carbon atoms, so it is pent, no double or triple bonds. So AN, and in the first carbon you have an aldehyde, so it is 1 al, or even if you don't specify it, it's okay. Okay, pentanal is also. Yeah, go for it. I think this is again Mithun. No, Mithun, this is wrong.
Sir, I sent another, sir.
That is also wrong. Why are you writing al? Do you have aldehyde here, Mithun? Again, same mistake. Third time. Why do you end the compound with Al? We have to end the compound with Al only if you have an aldehyde. Do we have an aldehyde here?
Sir, now I sent another.
Another one. Okay, this is also wrong. Which is having more priority. In this case, you have alcohol and the ketone, which is going to have more priority.
Right.
Sir, ketone has more priority
Good.
than
Yes,
alcohol.
yes. Ketone has the more priority. So you have to use the suffix ab for ketone only, not the alcohol. It has to end with O. Okay, O and it has to end with. So for OH, what will you use then?
Hydroxy.
Ah, good. Yes.
Sir, I don't have my phone around me, so I've sent my answers in the chat.
Chat up. Can you send it in the chat? I can check.
I've sent it, sir.
Oh, okay. Okay. Anandita also sent me. Anandita.
Sir, can I also send it in chat, sir?
Yeah, you can send it in the chat. No issues. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Yep. Anandita, it is 99%, right? Change that ENE to EN. That's it. It should not be ENE. If it's ENE, that means you're ending at an alkene. That is not an issue. This is a secondary suffix. So it has to be EN, not ENE. Other than that, everything is correct. Good. Good.
Okay, sir.
Okay, 4-hydroxy heptene. Who is this? This is Mithun. Yeah, this one is correct. Okay, Mithun, you got it right. Let me look at the chats. What have they sent? 6-hydroxy hept 2N 4-on. Okay, here what N? Hept 3N. Okay, fine. Right, almost everybody is getting it correct. Right. Here also I have some people sent me 6-hydroxy hept 2N on. Okay, fine. Lot of options. We'll check. Right, let me give you the name now. Right. Okay. So we obviously know that now. See people, whether you start numbering from here 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, let me put the 2 down only. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or you go for numbering from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right. So either you go from left to right or from right to left. You are actually getting same number 4 and 4 for the most prioritized functional group. Right. Okay. So if that's the case, I can go from anywhere to anywhere. Left to right is also okay. Right to left is also okay. But left and right hand side, you have two different things. One side you have OH, the other side you have a C double bond C. Okay. Think about it and tell me which is going to have more priority. First priority obviously go to C double bond O, no doubt about it.
From left to right, sir.
Alkene should have more priority, sir.
No, OH should have more priority.
OH.
Okay. OH should have more priority. So this numbering is wrong. Right? The up numbering is correct. Starting with this carbon 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is the way for numbering. Okay. Then if you do that, then everything is going to be correct. There is only one prefix here. In the second carbon, there is a hydroxy, 2 hydroxy. Right? Totally 7 carbons. So it is pent. Right? And you have a double bond also. So you have to go for the secondary suffix, and it is there in the 5th carbon atom, pent 5N, only En, not ENE, only En. And then you go for the suffix with O. In the 4th carbon atom, we have an O.
Sir, hept should come now, sir.
The hept.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was.
Sir, actually, I messaged you 6 hydroxy, sir.
Yeah, I know. Most of you message like that only, I guess. Anandita, what you said, I'll check one second.
Sir, I also said 6 hydroxy.
That means all of you are wrong. Okay. Only I am correct. Right. What did you send in the chat box? Let me check. Chat box. Anybody send correctly?
Even I sent 6
Okay, everybody 6 hydroxy. Right. OH has more priority than double bond. Okay. That is the lesson you learn from this. Right. Okay, people. I think we'll stop with this for today. We have 10 minutes. This being the first class, you can go enjoy. Right. We'll continue tomorrow. I think not tomorrow. I think you'll have class on Sunday, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. Yeah. Sunday we'll meet. Okay. Right. Thank you so much, people. If you have any questions, you can ask, or else you can leave.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I'm ending the class.